So I went back during the game because it just felt like it was going to be a close ending. It ended up being a Ravens win by double digits. But if you go back to last year, the LA Chargers have lost 8 games by 3 or less. And they've lost their last 7, in fact, by 3 or less. So I've said it's not man overboard with head coach Brandon Staley. It's not as though they're not competitive. But just think about this. Right now, the Los Angeles Chargers have the same number of wins as the New York Giants in a quarterback league when they're now on Tommy DeVito, their third quarterback. Now, I know a lot of you people just love to say, well, Justin Herbert, he is overrated. Let's say he is. At 6'5", 240, super mobile. You saw his run up the left sideline tonight. Big, fast kid, huge power arm. Would you not take him over all but about 7 guys in the league? I mean, have you watched Desmond Ridder? Are you watching what's happening in these games? Are you watching Zach Wilson or Tim Boyle as backup? Are you watching Will Levis? You take Justin Herbert over all but about 6 guys. But, what's interesting right now in the AFC playoff picture, only Tennessee, the Jets, and New England, all really bad at quarterback, are below the Chargers. If you want something to change in any business, you have to make changes. So again, I'm not a guy that calls for the firing of a head coach, but once again, end of a game, they really got a break because John Harbaugh and the Ravens should have gone for it on that 4th and short instead of trying to go up by 6. You're better off getting a first down, forcing the Chargers to use all their timeouts and ending the game that way. They got a break. John Harbaugh made a rare clock management mistake. They really did make a mistake. And I think Baltimore's as well run as any organization in football. He may have been thinking nobody's going to score touchdowns against our defense, but that's generally they should have gone for it. 4th and short, picked it up, forced the Chargers to burn all their timeouts. Be that as it may, they went on to win anyway. But I think the Chargers are at a point now where, and maybe this was last year, but their brand is like mismanagement. Their brand is blowing wins. Their brand is underachieving. That is a lousy brand to have. And it's a really bad brand in Los Angeles, which we've talked about before is a very distracted sports market. The beach, the weather, the mountains, proximity to Vegas, Scottsdale, lots to do here. The Dodgers, the Lakers, the Clippers, you got soccer, you got hockey, you got major college basketball now, USC and UCLA. There's stuff to do. There's a lot of things to do here. And if you don't win, people move on. There's another NFL team sharing your building. And right now that team, the Rams, has a better record than you, and they're in a rebuild year. So I think in a very distracted market, the Chargers are getting to a point now where their brand is just futility. And I know inside the building, and this is the downside to having an owner, the Spanos family, where their kids work in the building, is that everybody, it's like any family business. Everybody kind of walks on eggshells. Nobody knows what to really say in crisis, but they have a major crisis on their hands. The brand, which has never been a powerful brand to begin with, they were playing in a soccer stadium a couple of years ago. The town they were in a few years ago, San Diego, now many of those fans resent the Chargers. So it's not a very good brand to begin with. But in Los Angeles, it's getting lost. It's not must see. In fact, tonight, Lamar Jackson's as big a draw as the Chargers are. So at some point, if market share and, local viability matter, it's just becoming a bad brand. A really talented quarterback, a handful of talented players. Now, it would help if they had a deep threat. They drafted Quentin Johnston out of TCU. He's been very slow to develop. It looks like a bit of a miss. He doesn't look kind of buttoned up when he's out there. There's very little he can do. He's not on the field regularly. So they drafted him to replace eventually Mike Williams, a deep threat who just can't stay healthy. Williams got hurt again, and Quentin Johnston's not ready to play. That has absolutely hurt this offense. They go on a lot of these long drives because it's the only way they can score. Keenan Allen, Justin Herbert, Austin Eckler, And, you're hoping for 6-yard gains from Gerald Everett, and underneath stuff. So it's not nearly as viable as it could be if Mike Williams was healthy. And because Quentin Johnston has not been a hit as a first-round wide receiver pick, there's some limitations to begin with. But I think you have to make a move at some point with a head coach. If you want results to change, you have to make changes. Feels very simple to me. And now a segment we called Making It Look Easy. Matt Stafford made it look easy, 4 touchdown passes against the Arizona Cardinals. Some of the best play calling of the year by Sean McVay. Just like Matt Stafford made it look easy, so does Morgan & Morgan, America's largest injury law firm. 100 offices nationwide, 800 lawyers, and through the years, they have made $15 billion for their clients in claims. You will get a fair and reasonable return. Morgan & Morgan has been fighting for the people for over 35 years. If you're ever injured, go to forthepeople.com/Colin or dial pound 529 to check out America's largest injury law firm. Winning in the NFL is hard, but winning with Morgan & Morgan, they make it look easy. The Rams right now, believe it or not, are in a dogfight for a wild card spot in the NFC. And so this was a team, Vegas had their over-under at about 5. And I had said in the offseason, I had to talk myself out of putting them in the playoffs because I said, if you have a really smart offensive coach and a really talented quarterback and at least one big-time weapon, Sean McVay, Matt Stafford, Cooper Kupp, they had a couple offensive linemen I liked, good tight end Tyler Higbee, who had a couple touchdowns today against Arizona. I'm like, that's a team battling for the playoffs. But because they had so many young players defensively, my takeaway was they probably won't stop people. Well, Raheem Morris has been a great defensive coordinator for them, but it's really the Rams kind of ironically have become the opposite of the Chargers. Where the Chargers are constantly underachieving, the Rams are the opposite. I mean, if you really look at what this year was outside of Aaron Donald, it is a bunch of kids. There is no money on the defensive side at all, and they're playing very well. Now, they were physically controlled by the Philadelphia Eagles, a stacked, often veteran roster. Outside of that, they have been in every game this year. And have beaten teams, swept Seattle, and it's just coaching. McVay owns Pete Carroll. Stafford's better than Geno Smith. But the Rams, I mean, even if you go back to their Super Bowl year, it took Matt Stafford, they were struggling, a couple of blowout losses. They had Cam Akers, who they liked but didn't love. He had a bit of a fumble problem. They almost blew that game in Tampa because of Cam Akers fumbles. It was a team that had Jalen Ramsey and Aaron Donald, but Jalen Ramsey would bite and get burned over the top a lot. That was a team that was trying to kind of figure and find its way, and they eventually did for a Super Bowl. But I mean, I would say for a majority of the year, we did not look at that Rams team as a Super Bowl team. They had some ugly, ugly losses. And they just kind of find ways to win with Sean McVay. Now, he struggles in the regular season against Kyle Shanahan and the 49ers. They just don't match up particularly well with them. But outside of that matchup, I'm watching the Rams this year. The play calling, now, Arizona's not a great team. Nobody thinks they are. The play calling today, though, I mean, Cooper Kupp is not 100%. If you watch the game today, he is his first catch of the game. He's limping. They got Williams back. Kyron Williams, a very nice running back, very shifty, very clever. And that gives them kind of a 1-2 punch at running back and wide receiver. But this is a team that I would argue doesn't have a single great player in their prime. Aaron Donald's not. Cooper Kupp is not. Matt Stafford's not. Rob Havenstein is a good right tackle, but he's not in his prime. They don't have a single great player in their prime. Now, go to the Philadelphia Eagles in contrast. Jalen Hurts, great player in his prime. A.J. Brown, great receiver in his prime. Devontae Smith, excellent player in his prime. Their left tackle, young player. PFF, top graded left tackle in his prime. That's just on the offensive side. So Philadelphia is stacked and will probably win the Super Bowl. If you go to the 49ers, Fred Warner, I think, is in his prime, late prime. But, Bosa in his prime, Debo in his prime, Brandon Ayuk just moving into his prime. Rams don't have one. So this is a team. There are certain teams in this league, the Chargers being one, Buffalo another, that kind of find ways to lose. The Rams being a viable playoff team with this roster they've been moving offensive line pieces around, going to get running backs off the street, needed Puka Nacua, the 5th round wide receiver, early when Cooper Kupp was out to produce offense on the perimeter. Tutu Atwell was a bust seemingly at wide receiver. He's now semi-viable big play receiver. They are just coaching and drafting and development. And in the same building, you've got a team that finds ways to lose and a team that finds ways to win. There's no way the Rams should be a more viable playoff team this year than the Chargers.